Okay, so we can get started. Anu, if you can chant.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you, Anu. Welcome back. We are in chapter 5. We covered up to verse 13 last week. I don't want to repeat a lot, but still we wanted to get the connection. So once again, please understand that the theme of this chapter is Sannyasa Yoga. What is Sannyasa? That is the biggest confusing part for everybody. When Krishna was talking about Sannyasa, he meant the highest possible meaning of the word Sannyasa. Usually, when somebody talks about Sannyasa, the meaning that comes to our mind is somebody with an orange robe. When you try to connect what Krishna said with the meaning of a person or thinking about a person with orange robe, that doesn't fit well. That's where the disconnect is. So in order to clarify that, what we did at the beginning is we tried to see the different meanings of the word sannyasa. And if you remember, we saw at least 5 different meanings for the word sannyasa. Means if you want, you can make it as 4 also. So mere sannyasa, kevala sannyasa means you're rejecting or you're renouncing all your duties or activities. That's not a desired state. That's not a healthy lifestyle. That's not a conducive state. Second definition is Vividisha sannyasi. He is, by his own nature, he is not interested to pursue the worldly activities. So I said, going to a movie or going to a restaurant, having a party or doing a game or a vacation, that doesn't excite him at all. This particular person, he is interested only in the study and propagation of scriptures. He is matured enough, or his maturity is that. I'm not saying that that's the right thing, but he is not interested in any other thing. Such a person is known as Vividisha sannyasi. So he is not a self-realized master. He may or may not be a karma yogi, but he has taken up a lifestyle which is away from the conventional world. That is called Vividisha sannyasi. And the third and fourth refers to the different stage of a karma yogi, because when you start as a karma yogi, what you are renouncing is your attachment for a particular outcome, not the result, but the obsession for a particular result is renounced. So that's also a kind of sannyasa. When you mature in karma yoga, you know that even though I am able to execute a lot of things efficiently, I know that it's not just me. I'm only an instrument. So that those 2 levels are sannyasa 4 and 5. And ultimately sannyasa 5 refers to the person who has renounced his identity or identification with the body and the mind. So that's what this verse 13 was talking. If you know these 5 meanings, and if you apply the correct meaning of the correct verse, there is no doubt. It is crystal clear. So we'll just see the verse 13 once again, and then we can proceed. So I know if you can just chant, we studied this, we will just recap, and then we will go. Verse 13.
Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan.
Beautiful words. This gives that clarity of Vedanta. So, sarva karmani manasa sanyasya. So he renounced all actions. Sannyasa means renouncing something. What exactly he is renouncing? All the actions in the mind, not physically. That's very important. That wording is very important. People get confused when they hear sarva karma. When they say Krishna is very clear, how do you renounce the karma? You renounce the karma in the mind. How? You are not an agent of the action. You are not the performer of the action. That is why. Sukham, he means he aste sukham. He remains very happily where Navadware pure dehi. Navadware pure, we explained that, right, last week. It's the body with 9 gates. How? Naivam kurvan na karayan. He is not an agent. He is not an cause, right? So one is he is not cause to act. The other one is he is not an agent. So let's try to understand this a little bit more. Means I felt that we need to understand, diving a little bit more deep into that. What exactly is changing? Let's say that I work for a company A. Once I reach this, I go to work from 9 to 5. And then after that, I spend my time with family. Is that going to change for the sannyasi? Absolutely not. He will continue to do the same thing. But what exactly is changing? In my current state, I do a lot of actions. Now, who is performing this action? Let's try to understand that a little bit more clearly. Who is the performer of the action? Is it consciousness? No. Then who thinks who is the performer of the action?
Mind.
Not exactly mind, but a component of the mind. Ahankara. You see, this is very important. Actually, the reason why I'm telling is the modern science is getting into this very much deep. So if you think about your mind, the mind constitutes of different mental processes or thoughts. Correct? But there is a base process on top of which is going to unite and hold every other thoughts together. That's what is called the ahankara, the ego. And if that ahankara, which is like an operating system of a computer, you can run PowerPoint, you can run Zoom, you can run any applications, but basically you need to have the Windows or macOS. Without that, nothing is going to work. So in my mind, there is a mental thought which creates a notion in me that I am doing. Which creates a notion in me that I am doing it. This particular mental thought assumes the subjectivity. Think through that. But really speaking, this is the deep Vedanta. This is the highest Vedanta. Really speaking, this thought is also a thought in my mental landscape. I'm just paraphrasing Shankaracharya's language, okay? This much clarity is there in his commentary. This thought is also a thought in my mental landscape. See, I'm watching a movie in a beautiful theater with all the sound systems, and it's fully dark. Sometimes what happens? I also get into the movie and I think that I'm part of that movie. This character is related to me, that character is related to me, everything is happening. Whereas you need to understand that everything happening in the screen is just a projection on the screen. So every experience you experience is what is projected in your mind. And consciousness, because of the consciousness, only you are seeing all these thoughts. But this ego, the ahankara, what happens? It is pretty much needed for our existence in this body, but it assumes that subjectivity. And it thinks that I am doing, I am feeling. That's why means you get that higher attachment, emotions, everything. So you need to see your ego or the ahankara as an object. That's it. So that is the highest Vedanta. So that means what? Sometimes happy experience will be projected in the screen of my mind. That's okay. And sometimes sad experience will be projected on the screen of my mind. But if I am identified with that ego or the ahankara, what is going to happen? It stresses me out. It completely knocks me down. So the difference between a true sannyasi, who is a self-realized master, versus a normal person is, a normal person will be identifying with the ahankara instead of the real subject consciousness. He gets identified with a thought, which is a product of his mind, and he thinks that I am this. If you don't believe me, think of this in the dream example, Swapna Drishtanta. Because in the Swapna Drishtanta, there is an ego. And what is the identification of that ego? In the dream, that ego, the dream ego, obviously it is an extension of my waking ego, that's fine. But that ego, while I'm in the dream space, dream time, it gets identified with the dream body, the dream world, and do a lot of things, assumes ownership of a lot of things, becomes an agent of the action in the dream world, and becomes an object of various people's action in the dream world. But once you realize it, you know that that's not correct. And in the dream, you think that you are in the dream. Do you have any if that dream is not a lucid dream, you may cry and get up. You may sweat. You may be afraid. Why? Because of my identity with the dream ego. But question is, am I really the dream ego, or am I beyond that dream ego? Because when you get out of that dream, I still exist. Of course, identified with a different ego. And if I go to a deep sleep, the ego doesn't exist at that point of time, but I still exist. So the I is different from my conventional understanding of my I. This is the whole Vedanta. Vedanta is not changing any worldly situation. It just makes you aware who you are and objectively look at the body, the mind, the thoughts, and allow them to perform to the best possibility. The more you get identified with your body and mind and ego, you may not be able to use them efficiently. The best surgeon in the world cannot do surgery for his daughter. Why? Because of that identification. So the more you identify with the body, the mind, and the ego, you cannot efficiently make use of these instruments given to you to perform in this world outside. I know one person. This is a real, true story. I know a person in Chennai. This is literally true. This person was so much attached to the car. And his dream was a BMW 7 Series. He brought a car. You know what happened? He cannot take that car out. I was literally talking to him. He said that the roads here are not safe. People can come and scratch it. So literally he kept his car in his garage. So such a wonderful machine, such a wonderful system, he got ownership, he underutilized it. Why? Because of his attachment. So the more you attached with the body and the mind and ego, the less efficient you will be in the world outside. All your sufferings and problems is because of that. So, sarva karmani manasa sanyasta. He thinks that I am different from this. All the karmas belongs to the body and the mind. I am different. I don't have an existence beyond this. So a person who is known as Vashi, Vashi means one who has complete control, a true sannyasi. He lives in the body, enjoying the body as much as possible. But he knows that I have an existence outside of this body. And he neither assumes himself as an agent of the action. Truly speaking, in the dream you did so many things, so many crimes, let's say, or you did so much great work in the dream. You won a great award. When you wake up, will you be the agent of that action? Absolutely not. When you wake up, if you think, were you the object of that action, beneficiary of some actions? You won the best employee award in the company. When you wake up, you won a lottery. You cannot transfer that money. Because the agent of that action was not me, but the ego of that place and that time. So like that, I live in this world, and for me to live in this world, I need that ego. I need that ahankara. Some people say that kill your ahankara. If you kill the ahankara, it's a medical problem. There is a medical condition like that. So you need to keep your aham bhava appropriately. You cannot, means the pride you need to have, yes, I did it. But who did that? It's my body and the mind. And at this point of time, I am identified with my body and the mind. But it's not me. Using this body and the mind, I perform in this world. And this body and the mind is given to me to perform in this world at this point of time. So this is the highest Vedanta. And even if you go to Upanishads, you cannot see anything bigger. This is the ultimate. So this chapter of the Gita is like an Upanishad. So this verse is that, and let's continue. A few more verses, it is exactly the same idea. So let's go to the next verse. Who performed the action? Exactly, we already saw.
Na kartrutvam na karmani lokasya srujati prabhu na karma phala samyogam svabhavastu pravartate.
Okay. Here the word prabhu means Atma here, the Lord. That's literal meaning. The indicative meaning here is Atma. Usually the word prabhu is used for Ishvara or the God or some of the big rulers, Lord Mountbatten, like that, right? So somebody who has highest authority. Here it refers to the Atma. Na kartrutvam, na karmani, lokasya srijati. So he tells srijati means creates or forms. Na kartrutvam, no doership. But there are some doership. I'm just filling in the blank because this is an outline which needs to be filled in, right? So who has ownership? Somebody has to have ownership. I go and doing the work. Who has the ownership? It is the ego. Where the ego belongs to? It's my mind. Am I my mind? No. It's I have a mind, not I am the mind. That is the difference. In the dream also, I had a body. Am I the dream body? Absolutely not. If that was the case, when you get a cut in the dream body, that should extend to the waking state. But the cut in the dream body remains only in the dream. So like that, the performer of the action or the doer of the action, kartrutvam, belongs to the ahankara of that particular state. If I'm in a dream, the actions of the kartrutva means I cannot get punished. The waking ego cannot get punished for a crime committed in the dream. The reason is, who committed the crime? The ego of the dream. And who commits crime in the waking state? It is the ego of the waking state. And who gets punishment? Let's go through that also. Who gets punishment? The ego of the waking state. So this is the famous joke. Somebody killed somebody and he quoted Gita to the judge, right? The judge also quoted the Gita. I'm not punishing the Atma, I'm punishing only the body. So balanced. So this is not an escape route from my duties. This is the highest truth. Na kartrutvam, na karmani, lokasya srijati prabhu. So there is no doership, or means for any person, with any person, and then he also tells na karma phala samyogam. There is no binding attachment or connection or joining with the results of the action. And then finally he make a beautiful statement. This is the best portion, right? He tells Swabhavastu pravartade. The body is designed for something. The mind is designed for something. It will do its duty. So as long as you have this body, you have to perform it will perform its duty. But I am different from that. The dream body has its own nature. The dream mind has its own nature. According to the vasanas you have in the dream mind, the dream body will work, right? It may go to a movie, or it may go to a pleasure trip, or it may play cricket, or it may go to a swimming lesson, all these things, or it may go to a bar. It doesn't matter. What is your samskara? With that samskara, the body will act. But the person who knows that, Swabhavastu pravartade, the body, the ego, and the mind will act according to its swabhava, its nature. So is that an excuse? Okay, I'm bad, I do all nonsense. The explanation is, that is the swabhava of my body and the mind. Shankara takes up this problem and answers. I'm paraphrasing that in the modern language. Let's say that if your car break down in every 5 minutes, can you say that is the nature of my car and don't do any repair? It's a tool given to you. If that tool is not working, you need to fix it. So please understand that I am different from that. But if the tool Swabhava is not good, I need to fix it because that is essential for me to live my life here. So that's not an escape route to do all nonsense. So the key point here is na kartrutvam na karmani. And then finally, Swabhavastu pravartade. Karta and the bhokta, meaning the enjoyer and the doer, are the ego and the body and the mind. I am different from that. And I know that this body and the mind will act, will do its duty, its functions. And as long as I'm living in this time and space, it has to work. Once the person who understands this, he is the true sannyasi. Which definition? Number 5. And whenever Krishna was referring as a sannyasi, he was referring this sannyasi, not the person who is wearing orange robe. And every human being's goal is to reach this sannyasa. And conventional traditional path is brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. And some people they do not need to go through all the classes. They can skip from a lower class to the higher class. And such people, we talked about that, right? Shankaracharya, Narayana Guru, all these people. Even if you put them into the other category, they will get out of that category. They're not a fit. Narayana Guru is the classic example. His family forced him to marry, but he didn't stay there. It's because he was not made for that. Because they come with this knowledge. When you have this knowledge, it's so, their path will be totally different. Their world view would be totally different. The way they approach the world will be totally different. And most of the cases, you would see such people, you think that they just go to a cave and sit there. Such people you would see the most hard-working people. Look at Shankaracharya. He was born in Kerala. And I just finished reading his biography. It's so amazing. 2 times he went to the length and breadth of the country. Walking. Imagine that. That's the important thing. Everywhere he had conversations. He made sure that people are understanding this culture. From Kerala to the Pak-occupied Kashmir. Means you see the Sharda Pit there. From there to Puri to Kedarnath or Badrinath, that side, Joshi Math is there. That's the famous place he established his Math. And South Sringeri. Throughout the country 2 times. And the amount of work he has done, how many compositions he has done, it's hard. In a span of 32 years. Vivekananda, look at the magnificent work he has done. At the age of 39, he passed away. And imagine, he was talking to the world's parliament at the age of 29. That age, he was able to deliver that kind of speech without any experience, anything. Everybody. Like Narayana Gurudev. Imagine a society. You cannot imagine such, because right now we are far removed from such social circumstances. One entire community was not allowed even in the temple. At that time, Kerala was going through a very pathetic stage. And Swami Vivekananda called this place as lunatic asylum. That type of bad situation. From there, a saint came in and wrote, actually, these books are amazing, like Atmopadesha Shatakam, Brahmananda Valli. This truth, because this knowledge, if you have, you cannot but shine. That's the nature of this knowledge. Hundreds of examples. Shankaracharya, Narayana Guru, Paramahamsa Yogananda, all these great masters, Aurobindo, all these people. Even a little bit of this knowledge gives them enormous strength. Now, modern world think that Mahatma Gandhi is a wonder. How somebody could fight with British with a completely new methodology with sheer mental strength. Look at the history of Mahatma Gandhi. Initially, he was an ordinary, out of ordinary person. But the spiritual strength, look at his own writing. It is the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita that made him what he is. He calls Gita as his mother, second mother. He say that I got all the strength from this and also from Vivekananda. And actually, this is very interesting. When Gandhiji visited this Belur Math and paying tribute to Vivekananda, what he wrote was very interesting. He said, it is this man's words, through this man's words, I started loving my country. He was specifically referring to a series of talks made by Vivekananda, Colombo to Almora. If you haven't read, please read that series of talks. It's so nice. It's very difficult to read the entire Vivekananda literature. It's 9 or 12 volumes, thousands of pages, 12,000 pages. But at least if you cannot read the whole book, just read this portion, Colombo to Almora's, lectures from Colombo to Almora. Beautiful. So this is the thing. Who performs the action? Who performs the action? My ego performs the action, not me. I'm a witness of that. So let's go to the next verse. Okay. So I know if you can chant.
Nadatte kasyachit papam nachaiva sukrutam vibhuhu ajnanena vratam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha.
Again, another beautiful verse. He tells, so natat, this is very interesting. Here also the Atma is referred as Vibhu. Vibhu means Lord. Again, it is referred as Atma. Adate. Adate means na adate. So accepts. Neither papa. So you say that, okay, that's fine. One more statement. Nor punya. Because I'm not the agent of action. The Atma is not the agent of the action. Ego is the ego, or the Ahankara is the agent of action. So the Ahankara is what gets the punya and papa. Who is affected by the bondage of karma? It is my subtle body. Because Atma is beyond that. Natat kartrat kaschit na papam means na adate papam na adate punyam or sukrutam. So this is very important. And then what happens? Ajnanena avrutam jnanam. So who am I, really speaking? I am the Atma, which is the consciousness. Are you aware of Atma? Even a child is aware of Atma. Are you awake? If you ask a child, yes, I'm conscious. So it's not that we don't know Atma, but we properly don't know Atma. That is the only problem. I think that I have Atma, but really speaking, I am the Atma. The problem is that wrong self-identity. When you say wrong self-identity, I gets identified with the ego or the Ahankara, Whereas really speaking, I am not the Ahankara, I am the Atma. So, Ajnanena Avrutam Jnanam. This true knowledge is covered by ignorance. Tena muhyanti jantavaha. So, knowledge is covered by ignorance. Because of that ignorance, tena here means that ignorance. Jantavaha means people or the one living being. Muhyanti, deluded. So that's where I get addicted, and this is the root cause of all the problem. There is no other way you can get out of all the sufferings. Yes, with Karma Yoga and all, you can manage to live an efficient life, but that efficient life will come to an end one day. The other day we jogged. How much you can stretch your life? I was joking, 120 is the longest we know in the history. You may stretch that to 200 or 300 or 500, even that will come to an end. Even the life of Brahmaji, right? It is supposed to be the longest life. Even that will come to an end. I'll tell you, right, when you were a child, when you hear that 40 years, that seems to be a long period of you. Now, since you have reached that stage, it's okay, right? Think about your life. It's like a flash. And how quickly the time goes. An year is a long year, long time. But remember last year, right? Or all of you remember the time this corona started? March 2020. Remember we stopped the in-person class and we moved to the Zoom sessions, etc. that time. It's like yesterday, right? Another simple example. Imagine your first 10 years of your life. When you turned 10, you felt that, okay, it's a long period. Your school life appears to be long. But imagine the last 10 years. Imagine 2012. You can see that it just went like that. So that's why I was reading a book. Your first 10 years appears to be the longest. Second 20 appears to be shorter. 30 to 40 seems to be even faster. 40 to be 50 even faster. 50 to 60 is like a flash. Like that it will go. Ayurunashyati pashyatam pratidinam. Right? Vidyutchalam jivitam. Again Shankaracharya. Shamaparada stotra. Ayurunashyati prashyatam pratidinam yadichayam yauvanam pratyayanti kalo jagat bhakshakaha. He said, see, time is the silent killer. We don't realize every day we are getting one day closer to our end. And whatever is that end period, you cannot extend. Let's say that it is 200 years. If I lived already 50 years, 150 years is only left. 50 years is gone. Means I'm saying 200 as an impossible extension. But still that will come to an end. So this is the only thing. And try even a theoretical knowledge of this will give you some consolation. So this is the who is impacted by the action. Earlier, we saw who is performing the action. We found that it is the ego or the Ahankara performs the action. Who is impacted by the action, that's also Ahankara, not the Atma. So let's go to the next verse, one more verse.
Jnane tu tadajnanam yesham nashitamatmanah tesham adityavajnanam prakashayati tatparam.
This is beautiful. Again, brilliant verse. Jnanena tu tadajnanam. So, whereas for those whose ignorance or about the self. Ignorance about the self means what? what is the ignorance? Ignorance about who am I. They get wrongly identified with the ego instead of the Atma. That people, when that ignorance is destroyed through knowledge, Tesham Aditya means Tesham Aditya Ajnanam Prakashayati Tatparam. So when that ignorance is removed through knowledge, then what is going to happen? The truth or your own self will be revealed like the sun. So what does that mean? What is the greatest source of light we can imagine? It is sun. So when the sun comes, all the blind spots, because let's say that night, you may have some electric lamps. It may not illuminate the entire space around you. You may have a lot of blind spots. But when the sun comes, what happens? All these darkness go away. You will see things as they are. You will see the consciousness as consciousness, and you will see the mind as mind. You will see the ego as ego, and you will see the world as world. So that's exactly what it means. So it reveals everything. It means all the blind spots will be gone with this knowledge. And this is the nature of the true sannyasi. He may or may not wear orange robe. He may or may not be religious, meaning it's the so-called religious. It is totally up to him. But this is the sannyasi Krishna was referring in the 4th chapter. In the 4th chapter, we heard, right, see actionlessness in action, in inaction, inaction in action, those famous verses. He was referring as sannyasi. So Arjuna thought, okay, if I wear the orange robe, I'll get those things. No. If you wear orange robe and if you don't do the karma yoga, you are even below the number 3 and number 4. So in the order of sequence, the worst is that Kevala sannyasi or the Laukika sannyasi. Then comes the Vividisha sannyasi. Karma yogi is greater than that. And this is the highest level of sannyasi. Look at the sequencing and look at the way it is structured. So here afterwards, don't think that wearing orange robe is a prerequisite for being spiritual. And so many wrong conventions are there. Again, I was talking to somebody. This is all real example. Somebody said, I stopped drinking coffee because I am spiritual. What does that mean? See, if you're, see, the first of all, thinking that you are spiritual is that itself is an ego. So don't even think that. And see, you don't need to drop anything which is against, means of course, if it is something against dharma, like if you take drugs, things like that, you need to drop. But I'm again quoting Shankara in between. He said, like, the normal dharmic things, whatever you do, no need to drop. If it needs to be dropped, it will automatically drop. You don't need to drop it for becoming spiritual. And by dropping certain things or wearing kumkum and the chantana, that doesn't make you spiritual. This is a different kind of spirituality. This is what the Gita offers. See, one perspective, if you think from a conventional religious point of view, these things are revolutionary teaching. Some of them just go against the orthodoxy. You can see that. This is what the beauty of the Gita. And this is why it is embedded in a battlefield, not in a cave of Himalaya. It's in the midst of daily life, in the midst of the worldly activities. Okay, so we can stop here and we can have a few questions. Or we can even cover one more verse. We have 10 minutes. Yes, if it is, yeah, we can cover one more verse. Thank you. I know, can you chant that next one also? 17.
Tadbuddhayastadaatmanah tannishthaastatparayanah gacchantya punaravrittim jnanidhuta.
Okay, so this even just gives a little bit more color to that sannyasi, the highest kind of sannyasi. This is again a beautiful verse. I love this verse, 17 verse. He tells, Tat Buddhayaha. What is that when you say Tat here? What? Atma. That truth, whose buddhi, whose intellect is fully comprehended that Atma. He understood what is Atma, right? That is Tat Buddhayaha. So even the name you see, right? Swami Tadatmananda, his name is what? Tat Atma. His Atma, that his self is connected with that Atma. That is the name. So this is very, very common usage in our culture. So Tat Buddhayaha, one whose intellect is fully absorbed in that Atma. The intellect fully understood the difference between the Atma and Anatma. So the next thing is Tad Buddhayaha, then Tadatmanaha, right? So who is committed to that Atma? The one who, the Tat Atma, the second Atma here is the lower self. The lower self is committed or connected with that higher Atma. Means for a sannyasi, this is the best name. Swamiji got the best name, true to his meaning. So that's very, his life is truly committed. He's such a person, such a saintly person. So that name truly refers to the meaning. So it comes in the Bhagavad Gita. So Tadatmanaha, then he tells Tan Nishta. Nishta means lifestyle. His lifestyle or the worldview will be based upon this knowledge. He sees the body as body. He sees the mind as mind. He sees the ego as ego. And utilize it, not underutilize it with attachment, just like that BMW example. So Tan Nishta, he is committed to that. One meaning is he is committed to that Atma, but another meaning is his lifestyle will be driven by this knowledge. In other words, one meaning is he will be extremely efficient in utilizing his equipments, Anatma. And then Tat Parayana. For him, the ultimate end, the destination is Brahman. Because this is the ultimate destination. For you and me, we always joke that, right? God is only a means to get another end. My end is not God. My end is, say, $1 million right now. And why I see God? For blessing me with that $1 million. But here, the end destination is Atma, because he knows that once I get Atma, Sashanti Madi Gachadi, right? I get the peace that passes all understanding, right? If I borrow Jesus Christ's word, that state you achieve. So a few words are used. Tad Buddhayaha, Tadatmanaha, Tan Nishta, Tat Parayana. These are all his qualities. A true sannyasis. And then what happened? All his impurities are destroyed by the knowledge. What does that mean? It needs some explanation. Shankaracharya clarifies. So let's take your body as the example. Every day you shower the body. Why? You want to remove the dirts or the impurities. Does that mean that tomorrow when you operate in this world, you won't get impurities in the body? But since you know this, you shower every day and keep the body always clean. So self-realization means you cannot assume that he won't get dirt. Absolutely, his body will get dirt. His mind also will be exposed to dirt, but he knows how to clean that and keep it clean always. That's all it means. Don't think that he is resilient to all these physical, emotional impurities. No, it will come. He sees that as impurity. The moment you see some dirt on your face, you will clean it immediately. So he can see that and he will clean it. So this is very important. And finally, so so he will gain a state which with no return, like thereafterwards, there is no more rebirth for him. That seems to be a negative statement, but the point is he will be freed from all the bondage of karma. Right? That's it. Gachanti. So he will not come back again. That's it. This is the ultimate stage of sannyasi. So this is the whole Vedanta. If you study this chapter properly, then you don't need to, means of course you can study Upanishads for more clarity and intellectual understanding, but this chapter covers the whole Upanishadic theme. So that's why this chapter is considered as the most complicated chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, because of these verses. So if you understand the difference between Atma and Anatma, this chapter is at least intellectually understanding. It's not that complicated. Okay, so we can stop here. Anu, you can do the chanting, and then we can take one or two questions or comments.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.